Hello, this is Erica Norton, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. Today, we have with us Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a real estate and family law firm out of the Worcester area, and she and her team are fantastic at what they do. And we are very fortunate to have her with us almost every week, talking about topics that have to do with both family law and real estate law. Today, we are going to be touching on real estate law and really what are the biggest surprises that people have about a closing? I mean, and what goes into a closing. So, I guess anything could be surprising if you don't know anything about closing a house, right, Nicole?
Absolutely. It's one of those topics that can be varied. Um, and there's a lot of things. People are asking me questions. They're like, well, this is what happened with me when I closed on my house in 2020. Okay, little late to be asking me, but again, let's figure out what we really need to do to get to that closing table.
I mean, and that's true because, like with any sort of law, things do change over time. And some people buy their house and they don't do anything with their house for maybe even decades. So there's lots out there. What are some of the questions and the crazy things that are going on right now with your closings?
I think the biggest thing seems to always be an issue where, you've inspected the house, you go through it, it looks beautiful. You look at the chandelier and you look at, this furniture that's in the house, it's there. And I'm getting all that, right? Or so you assume. But unless it's in a purchase and sale, you're not getting it. So that's kind of like one of those big misconceptions that they come through at the walkthrough and they're like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? So are you getting that stuff? And the question is it a fixture? If it's not a fixture, you're not getting it. But I've also had sellers go, oh, I'm going to take off light plates and I'm going to take down this chandelier and I'm going to put up a $5 one. Well, then why'd you show the house with a nice chandelier? Again, so we have those problems where buyers and sellers have different expectations and one's changing things without telling the other and nothing's in writing. So that's kind of the one of the big issues that somebody's going to have a oh my god moment, and then the question is the attorneys now have to address it. I think that's probably the biggest shocking point from the closing table from the buyer and seller perspective, in addition to the money numbers that they're going to come up with at closing, because sometimes that's a shock too.
Right? I mean, you look when you're looking on Zillow or you're getting some listings sent to you from your realtor, you just see the price and you're like, oh, okay, maybe we can do that. And you might even get pre-approved for that price. But gosh, there could be an $80,000 surprise at the end of that for you. How much is it on average?
And it's the real question again, depending on whether you're a buyer or seller. Sometimes the seller side is, oh well, we forgot about that lien or that judgment that we didn't know we had to pay because we thought it just went away. No. Or it's a town debt that needs to be paid, or it shows up on the CML for water and sewer or betterment. Those are things that, from the seller side, you're shocked and you're like, wait a minute, I got to pay this. I was expecting to get X amount of dollars back, and now you just added on to it. And from the buyer side, again, what does that good faith estimate say? And are there things that we need to change? Where is that cushion? Because the good faith estimate is an estimate, and they have guidelines of where they can increase or decrease, but certain things don't even go into the good faith estimate. So if you don't know about it, like, oh, look, I ran up this Chase credit card bill and now they're saying I have to pay that down in order for me to continue at this rate that I need. Oh, great. Now I've got $15,000 that I didn't know about because I was just paying my bills and, buying things for the house. Well, you can't buy things for the house and not pay off the bill. So that's kind of where you get on both ends is you're going to have that shocking moment that, wait a minute, I'm bringing more to the closing table, or worse yet, I'm getting less back.
You definitely need that list. I remember when I went through my divorce, I had to then look at whether or not I could put this house in my name with my current income. And, luckily they do count your child support as part of your income, and you're able to get a better loan or for more money because of that. Whereas, people that are just left with nothing, if they don't know that, they might not even try for the loan. And I do remember that when I was trying to get the loan, they had a number of suggestions made to me for what I could do in order to, really get the loan and finalize it and have it go from just like the good faith to, yeah, these are real hard numbers. And one of the things was I had to pay off my student loan. So I had 6 months to put the house in my name. You should also know that going through a divorce, if you are doing that, how long do you have to qualify and do a refinance and put it in your name? Because it's just like buying the house again almost. I mean, would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the funny thing. A lot of times people will go, "Oh, I want to buy somebody out." Okay, great. I'm going to get pre-approved. But you don't know what your child support number is going to be. Whether that be I'm paying child support or I'm receiving child support, we don't know what that number is today. So that number may change. So it's hard for you to go to your mortgage lender and say, "This is the amount of money I need to pay off my ex," without knowing whether you're going to have income or you're going to have income deducted from you. And yes, absolutely, you need to kind of have that in the back of your mind that if everything is hunky dory and you fly through, buying and refinancing the house and getting your ex's name off of it, that's going to look at 45 to 60 days. Then, if you have a problem like, "I need to pay off my student loan," well, I can't afford to pay off my student loan. How do I do that? I don't have the money to do that. I'm going to have to save it over time. So now that you're doing that, well, wait a minute, I have a deadline that I have only 3 months to refinance. And you see where the conundrum is. So you really need to pre plan on this, talk with your attorney, talk with your mortgage lender, and come up with realistic timeframes before you're even signing that document.
Right. And just so that you know if you need to look for somewhere else to live, because it can be quite shocking. I mean, I think that's one of the things about trying to get divorced is like figuring out where you're going to live at the end. But I mean, this is about closing, and you don't want that shock to happen, so you definitely want to make sure that you are prepared. What else should we look for? Like, what are the other things that people are surprised about?
I think the other surprises are, again, what you're supposed to be looking through at the walkthrough. Not only did the magic things go missing, but try the gas stove, make sure it's working. Try one of the things in my house was I have a jacuzzi tub. You turn it on and it's drip, 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 drip. There's no water pressure. You're like, what the hell? So of course we made that a condition that when we're closing that the water pressure is going to be up because we went through the home inspection and it was something that the town needed to do. And we also needed to make sure that the jets were working. Well, we couldn't test the jets out because we couldn't get the tub filled. So those were the issues that I came up with, and we went to close it right to the inspection day before closing, and then lo and behold, we still have the same issue. Well, we learned that we got the water pressure up, we were able to resolve that issue, and then we couldn't figure out why the jets weren't working. Well, it was a strip breaker. But again, we needed to go through that. So you really want to test the items that you're purchasing. Look at the stove, look at the refrigerator. Is it the same one that was already there? Did somebody try to swap it out and give you the crappy one that was from the basement or somewhere else? These are things that people are doing. Are there holes in the walls that were hidden because there was a bureau there before and nobody bothered to fix it, or they patched it up but they didn't put the paint on it? What are we looking for as we're going through and we're actually seeing, does it look in the same condition it was in at the time of the inspection, at the time that you made the offer? So those are a couple of the quirky things that come about and really are just on a case by case basis.
Yeah, people will do that. They'll swap out the furniture. That happened to me before. I had somebody owed me money and they were supposed to give me some furniture and I went to go pick it up and it was completely the opposite of what I was trying to get. And I spent a lot of money on it too. But there was nothing they could do by then because she got rid of the furniture. So, I mean, you definitely it's sad that you have to be so careful because of, people trying to get away with something. I mean, you would think they're happy to sell their house, they're going to keep things as is. But that's definitely not the case. What about like documents and things that you need for the closing that people don't think about? I know that if you have a good attorney, this is like my pitch for you, like get an attorney to help you out because you want to make sure you have everything that you need that day and that they've also looked everything over to make sure, like we were talking about, nobody is trying to pull one over on you and things don't change because so many people don't read the documents. I mean, it's a lot to read sitting there, right?
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing is, again, rely on your attorney because they're going to show you, oh, this is the deed. Okay. Like, if you don't have an attorney representing you, you don't even know if that deed is right. You have no idea if they even drafted it properly. So that's number one, is just something simple like that. Oh, here's the deed, here's information, here's the smoke certificate, here's the plot plan. Okay, what? You don't, I mean, how many people really know what those terms mean? And that's the reason why I'm saying it exactly like that, because we do this every day. We understand. But if somebody's just showing you something, you're like, okay. And a lot of attorneys will, attend closings. There's attorneys out there that won't talk to you. Sign here, initial here, do this. And all they're doing is telling you that information. I recently had a client that came into me and it was on a refinance, which means there's a 3-day right of rescission in Massachusetts. That means you have 3 business days to cancel, and it's midnight of the third business day. Client doesn't understand that, doesn't really know anything. And it wasn't explained to him. He didn't know when the 3 days started. Was it the day that he signed it? Was it after, when that clock starts? When he signed it at 8 o'clock at night, does it mean the next business day? Questions that you need to have answers. So you need to have that attorney actually going over those documents with you. And if they're not, you need to either ask the questions or read them. Because all too often people will be like, yeah, just sign this. Well, yeah, I know what it says, but that's my job as an attorney to educate you and to go over the documents with you and point out the key points. This is your mortgage payment. This is when it's due. This is what your payments are going to be. This is when we add in the taxes and the insurances. This will be allocated every year as a different number, because if you have your taxes and insurance included, that may go up or down depending on that, because there's only so much that they can hold in escrow. You need to know that stuff. If your attorney's not telling you, that's a huge pitfall, because guess what? When the market goes up, the real estate taxes go up, the insurance goes up. And when all of a sudden you're agreeing to pay a mortgage for $1,500 a year, and then next month it's now $1,800, you need to understand that that's where it's coming from. So really, it's about that education of the documentation that is being put in front of you. And then from the seller side, it's going over those numbers with your attorney. What do the numbers look like? Where are the breakdowns? Are the numbers accurate? Do you have, the water and sewer right? Is there an oil reading that we forgot, a propane tank that we forgot? Because I'm not at the property. I don't know what your heating sources are. So you need to tell me. And if your broker didn't tell me, that number may not be on the HUD and you may be losing that money. You may be losing, $2,000 that's in an oil tank.
But what about property lines? Um, do you often see like the people don't have the property lines correct and they don't know really what they're getting as far as where the end of the yard is and where they can build and that sort of thing?
Well, It's usually the opposite of, well, I have this document here that shows my diagram of my house. Okay, that's a plot plan. That's done by somebody driving by. Yep, everything's where it should be. Nobody's putting stakes in the ground. Nobody's actually probably getting out of their car for the most part and determining where your lines are. So if you're going to take that step for a fence or a pool or something of that nature, you need to have a proper survey done and not rely on the plot plan, because the plot plan is an eyeball.
I think I mean that's good. You have to go get the surveyors. I've seen even people that are my neighbors will just like they just did a survey on their landlines recently. I actually didn't realize that the trees on the side of my property were mine because they have an easement driveway right there. And I had no idea. So there have been times when they're like cleaning that up over there. I'm like it's on the other side of my fence. I don't know. You know? But the other crazy thing that I see and that I've noticed is, if you go and you sit in on any like town hall meetings or like committee meetings, um, a lot of times you have people lined up there trying to get permission to build certain things and do additions and maybe they're going to build like a little extra like mini house or who knows what it is. They might be converting their one car garage into a two-car garage. They might be adding on to they might be building up, and you have to really think about like what are the air rights and how far are they going. I mean, you can go look at these houses, and I've been like I've gone on walkthroughs of houses just like trying to decide if I want to buy something, and people don't know, but they'll just tell you anything. You can say, "Oh, do you think I can put? Oh, you could. This would be great for an addition right here." Oh, can I bring my 6 dogs? Is that allowed? Like, no, you have to get a personal kennel license if it's anything over 4. I mean, there's like a lot of things that people want to do with a property. If you're going to make any changes, like you have to make sure that the town will approve something like that. And and if you want to have chickens or I mean or a goat, I mean you might have to have special, your house might be have to be zoned a certain way, not residential but agricultural. I mean, you have to look at this from a lot of, I mean, do you see a lot of these kinds of issues when people are going to close and they did not do the research on what they wanted to do?
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny that you say that because my house is zoned for racing pigeons. Go figure. I can have racing pigeons, but I cannot have goats. Um, so there are these nuances. I mean, I had somebody the
I
other
would,
day.
I don't know, I'd rather have the goats, but you know
I had somebody the other day that was buying a condo, and it clearly says in the MLS listing, no pets. But I have pets, and we're at the closing table. And it's like, well, you can't back out now. You back out now. We're keeping your deposit because we don't care. We've disclosed it. Again, look at the rules and regulations in a condo association. But, something exactly like you're talking about with the additions, like, oh, yeah, you can just look at the attic. Isn't it nice? All you have to do is put the little leaves on there. Okay, great. That means you have to get permission. It's not just something that you can do. So a lot of times the broker will upsell. It's not even my broker, it's the other person's broker, right? You can do that. Great. Look into it first. I have a client right now that wants to build a house on this lot, and it's lotted as agricultural. And we had to wait. We've been waiting on this closing for a year now. And that was because we knew that we should be able to grandfather this in to make it a buildable lot. And the town said, absolutely not. The good thing is we put that in the conditions before we closed. And the seller had to go to the town, appeal the decision. And we just got a decision the other day that says, yes, it's a buildable lot. Of course, it's grandfathered in. But of course, the town originally denied it, which is why we had to appeal and we had to delay it. So it's getting that knowledge, getting that education well in advance of buying the property. Don't wait until I bought it and now I want to do. So if you know you have circumstances that are unique, you want to make sure that you're focusing on what it is you need to do whether or not it's something you can tell the seller that they need to get permission in advance, or you're just going to buy the property. We had another property that was issues with contamination. It's a residential property. He wants to build his dream house, but there's contamination. Go through the phase one, figure out what that determination is and whether or not you want to build there, or if the contamination is so bad that you don't want your family there. But do that education well in advance.
Yeah, if you're trying to build next to a river or a lake or anything, I mean, you you may not be able to build within a certain amount of space from the shoreline. There might be, I mean, the ground may not hold up. There might be watershed. Like, there's a lot of things that could come up. So that's really good advice. I had a question for you on something that I don't know. I heard a comedian talk about how Airbnb is ruining, prices of houses in neighborhoods because, and I think that there might be rules coming up in different towns. If you decide, like, some people will buy a house just to make them an Airbnb. And so now you've got a situation where there's strangers coming and going, and they may not be, um, the most polite with like noise and trash and whatever. There might be fighting going on. Like, you've got a bunch of strangers in and out of your house. You don't know what could happen with that. I mean, have you heard anything about this? Are there rules against it yet?
Oh, there are so many rules regarding Airbnbs. There are so many regulations. You have to get permission. It's amazing how everyone goes, "Oh, I'm just going to do it." Okay. And guess what? Your neighbors catch wind of that, they're shutting you down and they're fining you. So, yeah, again, that's one of those unique things. If you know you want to do that, you better make sure that you go in and already have that information, or at least have the application pending or whatever you need to do. But the reality is, you could be denied.
I mean, it's the same thing with Rover, as we know. I mean, you might have gone through a divorce and you figure, hey, I've got a fenced-in yard. I could just have some extra dogs. And, then it turns into a whole thing and you've got a successful business and your neighbors hate you. And, then it turns out you're actually not allowed to have all those dogs there. You have to get that special permission. There actually is one of my neighbors nearby that has an official doggy daycare out of their house. And I realize every time I walk by there how loud it is. So the people next door must be angry because, if you're trying to sell the house next door, it's very difficult.
Absolutely. It's definitely one of those things that, that's why you go out and inspect. You need to make educated decisions. And part of that education is going out there, not only at planned times, but, again, it's a public street. You can walk down the street, you can see what your neighbors are like, you can see what's going on. But educate yourself. That's the big thing. You need to learn how to educate yourself. And if you don't want to do it, find the resources, find the people that can educate you, and then just tell you the summary.
This has turned into a much more interesting conversation on real estate than people usually think about when you're talking about closing on a house. I mean, I didn't even realize we would come up with all this extra stuff, but there's a lot of excitement in real estate and a lot more than you might think.
Absolutely. I mean, it's ever changing, and like you said, just because you closed on a house 10 years ago or 20 years ago doesn't mean the same practices are out there. Doesn't mean that, hey, look, when I closed originally, my closing costs were only $1,000. Well, good luck with that. Now if you can get them for less than 6,000, you're good. And you kind of go, well, what does inflation have to do with that? Everything costs more. But again, that's why we need to have the education. That's why you need to go to the right resources so that you can get educated.
Can you talk a little bit about just there have been some changes recently in the realtor compensation, the buyer versus the seller realtor compensation. It used to be that the seller had to pay for all of the closing costs, both of the realtor fees. And now it's a little bit different, but I'll let you take it away.
What's different about it is it's more work for the attorneys. That's kind of the reality of it is we now have to go to everyone and go, okay, so who's getting the commission, who's paying it? And 9 times out of 10, you're still going to get the sellers paying all of the commission. But we have to define that, and we have to say it, and we have to put it in writing, and it has to be disclosed. And it's a lot of extra work for really the same results. Because again, most people are going to still have the seller pay. And if you don't have the seller pay, then you do it in a closing cost concession. So one way or another, it boils out to the same type of thing. But yes, we have to have a specific line item. We have to list that. It needs to be in the purchase and sale agreement. And obviously, we need to adhere to that at closing. But like I said, most of the times right now, the seller's still picking it up in some fashion, if not in whole. I will say that the commission rate from the buyer side has gone down a little bit. So they're not always getting 3% on the buy side that the seller's paying for, but they're usually getting at least 2%.
That's another ever changing situation. You never know what you're going to come up against. Is there anything else that we should know? I mean, we've talked about a lot of interesting scenarios in trying to close your house, and hopefully, it's given everyone some ideas as to what they should look for and some potential nightmares. But is there anything else before we go that you had in mind?
I think the one thing I'm going to say is while I put out a lot of, oh my God, what am I getting myself into moments? Don't think of it that way. Most closings overall are smooth. I'm talking about all the crazy stuff because that's what you want to know about and that's what you need to be educated on. But I have clients that are, nervous Nellies and oh my God, what happens about this and what happens about that? Again, let the professionals kind of do their job. Tell them what your concerns are so that we can make sure that it's in the documents or that we can assure you what to look at or this is how we're looking at this document. So educate yourself as to what your concerns are, but don't sit there and go, well, what if they back out? Well, what if no, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. So really, again, I have the clients that have to go, stop, just relax. If there's an issue, I will tell you, but take a breath because it does become very overwhelming. And I know that this is a huge project, whether you're buying or selling. This is a huge asset. This is a lot of money on either side. But again, there's a time and place to be concerned. And when you start getting nervous and you're closing in 60 days, again, I don't want you to end up in the hospital.
It's true. It's a stressful process, but that's why you hire experts like yourself to help get you through it. And you have checklists, and you get people prepared way before the closing, which I think is so important. And you can explain, why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, whether you're buying a property that is next to a waterway, or maybe you need to have the well water tested to make sure that you know what you need to do with that. I mean, there's a lot of different things, and if you don't buy and sell houses every few months, you just don't have that experience. You don't sit there and see like all the problems that people can have. So that's why it's great to have an attorney that is going to help you. And honestly, in a real estate closing, I mean, obviously, if there's some kind of dispute, then that's another situation. But the attorney is not one of the biggest costs for a closing. I mean, they're really not. So it's really stupid not to use one.
It definitely boggles my mind when I look at it and go, you're spending how much on a broker and you're quibbling over my fees? Because I'm not even getting a fraction of what the broker's getting. So again, yeah, they have their job and that's their compensation, and certainly they're entitled to it. But the reality is, we're ensuring that your house is safe and secure. And we're ensuring that you're getting good title, that somebody isn't going to turn out tomorrow and sue you because you're on my land and you didn't have the authority to be here.
What a nightmare that would be. I mean, just to save a few $100 or a couple thousand, whatever it is now, I'm not even sure. Um, it's really not worth, 50 or 100,000 or whatever you're going to have to spend fighting someone in court. So it's something to really think about. Always use an attorney with your closing, and if you can, always call Nicole because you do all of Massachusetts, don't you?
I certainly can do all of Massachusetts. Obviously, the bread and butter is in Worcester because it's local and it's right across the street. It's right there.
Yeah, there you go. And Hawaii too.
Absolutely.
So there's a little bi-coastal situation there. So that would be a dream for the future. But thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate all of your time and your information, helping people through some difficult decisions and difficult times in their lives, and even some happy ones. So we do appreciate you, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you again next week. This is Erica Norton, and I own the Perfect Legal Video here with Nicole Reeves Lavallee of Reeves Lavallee Law out in the Worcester area. So we'll see you all soon.